Okay, hopefully we are now live. Um, so if our marketing department can let me know if all is good. Had some technical challenges as usual. Sprite is out today. So let me pull up everything and make sure it's all good. I think we're good, Chris. So I want to welcome everybody. I'm David Gross with Condé Systems, and we're back here to share some of the secrets of sublimation success. And person that is one of my most favorite people in the world is Chris Bernat. Chris, how long have we known each other?
Um, David, I think you've almost known me about 40% of my life, so about 20 years.
Long time. And
Yeah.
I got to, Chris, before the broadcast was starting, we were talking about um, his credentials, his resume, which are unbelievable in the sublimation world, as well as his sort of, we'll call it the nonprofit part of Chris being one of the key folks there at now Printing United. And obviously, Printing United is not going to be exactly as it was. And so, is there going to be a virtual Printing United?
That they're working on a lot of things. Ironically, I received an email this morning that we're going to be having an exec meeting to go over things. But I think the whole trade show thing in general is going to be a lot different, like we were talking about. And I think virtual shows are here for a little bit. And like we were talking about, that makes it easier for a lot of people to get there. And as somebody recently said to me, hopefully you've already pivoted because the disruption has already occurred. So need to be ready for this to be the way things operate for a while.
Gotcha. So, Chris, you are now with Source Substrates, which we know is Vapor Apparel,
Yep.
and you're really one of the driving forces, certainly as I think of it in the sublimation world. And Chris is here today just to share some of his tips for being prosperous during this time. And I got to ask you, are you seeing the same thing on your end? Is sublimation sort of the reigning champ?
It's funny. It's like having always, I'm a New York Mets fan, so I'm a glutton for punishment, and we rarely get to be doing well. But I feel like sometimes people like looked at sublimation as, oh, that little toy. I think sublimation is officially the victor of COVID-19. One of the stories that really resonates in my head that I think about at the beginning, we're doing a lot of personal protection equipment, PPE. So that's masks and Gators. And we had people calling us about Gators. And a guy from Michigan called me, and really big screen print shop, 80% screen printing. And he wasn't allowed to open the shop. So he went to his place at 3 a.m. and he went and grabbed his sublimation printers and his heat presses, and he put everything in the backyard, and he kept operating. And, you know, that's one of the big advantages of sublimation. I've always called it the Swiss Army knife of digital decorating. And it has really won in comparison to embroidery, screen printing. You can't move a screen print heat tunnel. You just can't, and not quickly. And so I think the ability to do things in a small way is actually a massive asset right now.
Wow, that is exciting. Well, what makes sublimation the champ?
I think it's definitely, I think that portability is a big part of it. I think that if you look at if you look at Gators and you look at masks in particular, if you put screen print ink on a mask, that's not ideal to breathe through. We all know that sublimation is not a surface decorating technology. It embeds itself within the polyester molecule. And so it has a better breathability capacity. It has full color capacity. It doesn't need, it's very just in time, print on demand friendly. So I think it's just happens to be the right weapon for the current battle. Gators have always leaned towards sublimation as their deferred or the preferable way to decorate them. If you look at the big brands, and for a lot of people, Gators are a new thing, but for us, we spend a lot of time in that outdoor market. We're obviously a sun protection clothing brand at the same time that we're a sublimation friendly brand of clothing. So we've been selling Gators for a long time. Fishermen know them well. Skiers know them well. I like to wear mine on when I was riding my bike in December, so I wouldn't catch a cold here on my neck. So they've always been sublimated. It's what people expect them to be. And I've also noticed that there's a lot of different ways that people look at covering your face during COVID-19. I think in the Southeast and in the Midwest in particular, people want something more like a gator. It's something that they're not, they're used to it. And I've seen so much of this being sold to companies. Think about anybody who's got to have their people interact with a consumer. That, the guy who delivers propane needs to go up to the homeowner. The person who's on a delivery route has to interact with a consumer. I've noticed that the UPS drivers in my neighborhood, they have it on their neck, and if the customer comes outside, they're quick to pop it up. So it's a very friendly device, especially if it's hot out, because it also keeps you cooler.
So, I know the folks at your company have focused a lot on essentially taking polyester and making it really a great outdoor product, both comfort-wise, sun-wise. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, and by no means, I feel like I'm, back at the old school here, because we do work in a couple of different marketplaces, but within sublimation and within, our mutual customer groups, we're still a sublimation brand. And I'm happy to talk about why the solar line is doing so well. But I would be remiss if I didn't remind everybody that we have the highest quality garment on the marketplace that is engineered to look and feel like cotton. And that's the basic performance tee, which David, you've been carrying for literally a decade and a half. And I think that when anybody's looking for a traditional sublimation friendly garment that's not going to have big opacity issues, that it's substantial, that people like the feel of it after it's been washed, the basic tee is always going to be the right shirt. That being said, what you are referring to is correct. Polyester naturally has performance attributes. A lot of people don't realize that it's naturally a fantastic athletic or physical use fabric for clothing. It naturally takes sweat from your body and pushes it out so that it can wick away in the air. So that's not a new thing. Under Armour, in my opinion, is the company that made everybody aware that polyester is more comfortable than cotton. And
True.
So polyester had to overcome a lot of its traditional baggage, if you will. I mean, a lot of people think about, there was a video game when I was growing up called Leisure Suit Larry, and he walked in with a leisure suit on in the video game. And so people have this connotation that that's what polyester was. It may have been that at one point, but now it's all about keeping people comfortable. A lot of people think performance apparel keeps you cool. Well, it does, but it also keeps you warm in the wintertime. It moderates your temperature. So if it's cooler out, it's gonna keep you warm. If it's hot out, it's gonna cool you down. Now our solar fabric is a great shirt. One of the things I'm most proud of is it's endorsed by the Skin Cancer Foundation. All of our colors are UPF 50 or higher. A lot of people don't realize this, but the color of a shirt actually impacts its UPF rating. The hardest color to get certified for UPF rating typically is like a Columbia blue. So we get each of the colors tested to ensure that they do meet standards. We have as part of our garment, we have something called PureTech technology. And what it does is it does wick moisture away. But when it's hot out, like it is in Mobile and here in Charleston, it can be 95 degrees out. And once our garment is wet, within about 20 seconds, it's going to assume a temperature of roughly 70 degrees Fahrenheit. As I was telling you before, David, we make our gaiters out of that same fabric as well. That's why fishermen use them. To stop the water from the sun from bouncing off the water and giving them a sunburn. So what's great is as you use these garments and you wash them, the UPF rating actually goes up.
Wow.
And that's not normal. So some of our, legally, you're not allowed to say anything more than UPF 50 plus, which we do. But after 30 washes, some of our shirts have an actual UPF rating of over 300.
Wow.
And it's nice to be able to sell something to somebody, promising them certain features are going to be there and not have them disappear just because you use the thing a lot.
Well, that's very impressive. And, you bring up, I guess, one of those kind of, call it Mythbuster, is can you sublimate to colored shirts?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You and I both know a gentleman in the industry by the name of Nick, and I heard a great analogy by him that I'd never heard before. And that is, you can't dye a maroon colored Easter egg, but you can dye a light blue Easter egg or a light pink Easter egg. So yes, I think the most technically specific way to say it is with sublimation, because it's going to become part of the fiber itself, you can't take color away, but you can certainly add more density and more depth to color or darker colors onto light colors. We've been preaching the disruption of that urban myth that you can only print on white for well over 10 years. What's interesting is within certain markets of sublimation and within certain markets of the outdoor market, they know that right away. If you talk to people in the fishing industry, they immediately assume that sublimation has always been known to work with a seagrass color or an Arctic blue or a light or a yellow, because they've seen it that way for the last decade. So we've always, over a decade ago, we introduced the concept of sublimation certified colors. That's our term. We got it trademarked. What we mean by that is if you use that color shirt and you use a standard sublimation color gamut, 70% or more of those colors are not going to be tweaked by the base color of the garment. It's really cool to take a Arctic blue shirt and then print a little bit of gray where the waves are supposed to be, and then hold it up to somebody and say, hey, what color are those waves? And they say, oh, they're white. So, your eye is telling you they're white because it's a shape of a wave. And so when we hold up an Arctic blue shirt with a surfing image on it and ask people what color are the waves, they say they're white.
It is amazing. I'm in a room with several dozen of your shirts, and almost all of them are colored, and they're beautiful colors. And it's just amazing from an optical illusion point of view what the brain ultimately says that color is.
It reminds me of when have you ever seen those things where they remove a couple of characters of words and then they still put the sentence in and say, can you read what the sentence is? to me, it's the same kind of part of your brain working that way.
But I think, my part of the Sublimation certified is that your typical garden variety colored polyester shirt, you hit it with heat, the dyes are coming out.
You're right, and thank you for bringing that back, because really Sublimation certified isn't just about the color, it's about the things that we do to our garments. We make a quality garment, and I think there's really nice things in every category. There's really acceptable things, and then there's things where you're kind of like, that's not so good. In cars, there's people who sell Cadillacs and there's people who sell Audis, and they know that if price is number one and quality is not, that they're not necessarily going to get the business. And I think we approach it the same way. So we've decided to do things to the fabric for literally 15 years that fundamentally cost more money to do. One of the things we do is we heat set our fabrics prior to them being turned into garments. So our fabrics, through a proprietary process, we're making sure that they're not going to shrink on the press. Many of our competitor garments will shrink 1 or 2%, 3% sometimes on the press. And then the color just looks out of focus. The image looks out of focus and nobody can really understand why. So that's another aspect of being Sublimation certified, that the fabric is heat set, that the fabric is not going to lend itself to sheen or shine, and that the colors in the garment are also heat set, to your point, so that they don't escape during the transfer process.
Okay. So just moving on here a little bit. So during this virus, which who knows how long it's going to last, and obviously right this second it's very hot here.
Yep.
What are the sweet spots, or as Chris Bernat would say, what are those low-hanging fruits that sublimators really should jump into, product-wise, and also what are some of the exciting markets that you think people should address?
I think my favorite term for all that is honey hole.
There we
like
go.
The term, where are the honey holes? We have some, and obviously, excuse me, my ear was ringing for a second. Gators are by far a sweet spot, and that's kind of a no-brainer to people, and so are masks, and there's plenty of good products out there for that category. What we did is, we had to accelerate. We've been making Gators a long time. We've been making a high quality Gator. Frankly, we didn't sell that many because until quality mattered, people wanted a Gator that was super low cost. Now people actually care about what the Gator is doing. And so that caused us to have to dramatically ramp up production. We quickly realized, hey, you don't have a really good size Gator for the tween market, for kids who are 13 or 12 or something in that. Oh, you don't have a youth Gator either. Oh, and by the way, you need an extra large Gator because there's guys that are big out there too. So we quickly added those 3 sizes, and that's a big deal because when you're buying Gators for an organization, you're not buying them for one group of people. You're buying them for a bunch of different sizes. And so what we saw very quickly is that because we had all the different sizes, our customers were getting the business even though they were more expensive. They were charging more for their product because it was higher quality, because they had the coverage for everybody in the population of the target customer. So the fact that you can go out with 4 different sizes gives you extra horsepower in getting the business. Oh, you have Gators already? Okay, Mrs. Jones. Well, do you have them for every size of person? Is anybody, fitting correctly in the organization? So that's been a big win. So going into any market with a Gator of only one size is not as impactful as that. It's the market segments that I think is it's pretty obvious that Gators and masks are the spots. Now, you and I were talking, people are spending more time at home, and they're investing in things that make their home feel better. They can't go on vacation. You know, a lot of people are trying to save money, but let's think about the people who haven't been disrupted by COVID-19. They still have their money and they're not going the places they were planning. So they're investing in things at home. I think the canine market, people are spending more money on their dogs now than ever before. And, you know, here's Henry, my dog, sorry, over there. I've got him shown. So in case he starts barking on me, you guys know what he looks like. But he's behaving very nicely at my feet right now. I have spent more money on Henry in the last 5 months than I did in the 5 months before that. Maybe it's because we're spending so much time together. So I'm seeing a lot more of our canine products, our dog bandanas in different sizes, selling at 2 to 3 times the normal rate that they have historically. Thinking about other things that are moving, really from a substrate standpoint, I think that's the main ones that I've noticed. You know, I encourage people to talk to businesses. A gator is a great way to talk to somebody you've never done business with. A mask is a great way to talk to somebody you've never done business with, because everybody needs them right now. You know, America, I think, has 25% of the world's attorneys. So a lot of business owners are concerned about litigation. They need to be able to point at things that they did during the virus to protect their customers, themselves, and their employees. Not that you have to sell it that way, but that's on the minds of business owners. And so what's wrong with bringing up, hey, how are you protecting your employees and frankly, your company when it comes to keeping your customers safe? So that's an area that I encourage people to go after. You know, a lot of organized sports are gone, but guess what, guys? There's still camps. My daughter is the senior counselor at James Island Rec Center camp. I gave her some Gators to take, and the organization jumped on her immediately. Like, where'd you get those? How do we get them for everybody? Police departments, first responders. I've been shocked at how many police departments I've seen doing decorating with customers that we've talked about, because they're out, you know, protecting things. They're out doing their job. They're out reacting to first responder priorities. And a neck gaiter, again, is just so much easier to manage, especially if you have field equipment on, helmets, other forms of gear like a fireman does. So that's a market that has been extremely busy, in my opinion.
And I wonder about the schools, you know, if they really do open, then that's just a floodgate. All you really need to do is make a sample. And this is the time, right? You can't sell a product unless it's personal.
You know, not everybody wants a fully decorated sample. You know, you guys have started carrying some of our colored Gators. Back in April, when the screen printers started freaking out, they called us and said, how come you don't have black Gators? How come you don't have dark blue Gators? So we actually made some in those colors as well. You know, but then we had people saying, well, how come you don't have the colors that you have in your shirts and Gators? So I can create an ensemble. I can bundle these two things together. I remember sitting there thinking to myself, well, I'm feeling pretty stupid for not having thought of that. So we scrambled the jets real quick. You know, we already had the fabric at the factory. It said, hey, you know, don't make them in the shirts, make them in the Gators instead. And now we have those colors in youth sizes as well, and in the medium. And you know, school is going to be, there's 50 different states. Every state has a different reaction to COVID-19 for a lot of reasons that we don't need to review here. Within every state, there's probably at least 50 school segments that are going to do their own thing. So everybody's going to have different circumstances in front of them. And I can imagine that even within a 200-mile radius, you're going to have 3 different options on what's happening with public schools. So Gators are naturally going to be part of that solution for some municipalities, some school districts, in my opinion.
I certainly agree. And I'm going to switch the camera back just 1 second. I'm going to show you what I did with my mask. And so I guess this is a human product based on a dog.
Technically.
And you know, and my dad was veterinarian, so of course I love dogs, and my daughter kidnapped our dog to take it up to Auburn to have photographs because she didn't get to graduate with the ceremony, you know, and
Yeah.
so a lot of opportunities. Just out of curiosity, what did you spend? Where did you spend the money on your dog? What?
So we've been mastering the art of catching the Frisbee in the air. I've overbought on Frisbees
Okay.
for my dog, but that's been fun. And we got him got him a new bed because we were tired of bringing his bed up and down stairs. So we're like, of course, Henry needs a new bed. We upgraded, and he's been getting a lot more snacks out of us too.
Okay.
So when you're not traveling, and David, you and I both have traveled for business substantially, it's you just start looking for things to do. And so we got on the golf cart. I happen to have a pet, one of those large pet retailers near us, and I guess we've just been spending a little extra money on doggy treats too.
Well, I tell all our clients in my classes, which of course now are virtual, but I tell them, work a deal with the pet groomer and sell personalized products through there. And I probably need to go by and see if the pet groomers are in business. I take it they probably are. You think about putting up, if I went into a pet groomer, which I've only taken ours a couple of times, I'll probably buy some personalized product for my dog that's no longer with us. And you're right, we will spend the money on those kinds of things.
And on that, it's funny. I live here in Charleston, South Carolina. I actually live in my neighborhood. The first ever strip mall ever built in South Carolina is there. They actually, not until too long ago, had a very small Belk store there. So there's a big local retailer there called Phillips Shoes. And I love going there. They provide unbelievable customer service. I will always go to them as long as they're selling shoes. And so I went in and I had a couple of Gators with me, and I left one for the manager. I said, hey, here, have you guys thought about selling PPE? Personal protective equipment. And she said, oh, he'll never go for it. He's turned down shirts. He's turned down everything. Well, today I got an email from him, their third reorder, which was equal to all 3 first orders for Gators. And all I did was, go in there. I wanted to buy shoes from them when they opened back up because I wanted to help support my local retailer. And now they're a customer, and they're the best shoe store in town with 3 locations. So don't be afraid to walk in and just throw a Gator in front of somebody and say, hey, do you guys need something like this? You'd be surprised. Retailers are looking for anything that is relevant right now.
I teach the virtual,
figure it out.
I teach the virtual inventory model that it's blank until you decorate it.
Yeah.
And people that are in the retail environment can order exactly what they need. They're not having to do an end of the season sale. They can change with local themes, local art, you name them. So,
and just to remind everybody, we have all of our templates available to folks, and I imagine they're probably available on your site as well, David. But we provide you with the templates for all the different Gator configurations so that you don't have to waste precious ink and paper as part of the production process.
So for some people out there that aren't doing sublimation but are part of this, and I guess sublimation really has gone incredibly viral all these years. How difficult is it to do sublimation?
Well, it's funny, David. You and I have been dealing with sublimation. Well, you've been dealing with it for longer than I have, but I've been dealing with it for 20 years. And And you and I, I think it's probably 17 or 18 years ago, I remember us having to work through some really bad product quality issues with inks. They weren't fun days. I think I accelerated my gray hairs back then. But that's not the sublimation of today. I think sublimation is so much easier than it was 10, 15 years ago. It's really not the same technology. I think the introduction of gel inks is one of those factors. They're far more stable. I think the vast array of substrates has made it a lot more appealing. If we're talking about the technical simplicity of getting started, I think it's easier than it's ever been. I think it's more profitable than it's ever been. I also think that the products that lend themselves to sublimation that you guys carry are much more part of normal society than they were, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you were having to introduce the idea of something being customized. There's a lot of retailers that do sublimation as part of their customization. I'll never forget when I met the vice president of customization for Crate and Barrel. And I was like, what do you guys customize? They're like, take a look at the back of our catalog, man. Take a look at our website. We use sublimation printing. We customize bed boards and other things for consumers, and we charge them a ton of money for the customization. So I think it's gotten a lot easier, and I think it's gotten more expected, frankly. Everybody likes to talk about Henry Ford. You can have any color, Model T you want as long as it's black. And now you can literally, I'm in love with the new idea of the new Ford Bronco, and I was online. It's amazing what you're going to be able to configure and customize if you can get your hands on one of those Broncos when they first come out.
Wow. Yeah, I saw some of those. They were tremendous.
Oh, and I'm so excited. I never got to. My neighbor had a great. I think he had a '68 Bronco, and I can still see it. It was sky blue with tan leather, and I think there's just a lot of people my age who are going to find an excuse to order a Bronco.
Well, one of the great companies that you worked for, I guess it was you've only had a few jobs, I guess, in your short life, right? Because you're a youngster.
Well, I had a lot of jobs before I met you.
So you worked for Sawgrass, and
Yep.
Sawgrass, I think, is certainly been, we'll call it almost, give them credit with being the inventor of the desktop world for sublimation, innovator, and the value that they pack now in their products, to me, has gone a long ways to making, I'll use this term, turnkey in the sublimation world. And of course, the larger solutions are also very, I guess we'll call them refined. And so it just makes things, we used to talk about roadkill, and nowadays, if a person will put in the sales and marketing part of it, very high probability they're going to be successful.
Well, yes, and I think that I think one of the biggest problems with sublimation is that the entry level of cost is almost too low. So people can look at it, because you go to a show, you buy a piece of technology, you're excited about it, you get back to the office, and all of a sudden there's a stack of things you haven't done because you went to the show. And then people, I got to get the sublimation going. And then it's 4 months later and they still haven't done anything with it. And then they're like, gee, I wonder if the inks are still good. And so I think that used to happen a lot. You can't let that happen, because this technology is winning new customers for people every day. We do see a lot of folks from the promotional products market. And I think everybody was really scared in the beginning of April, like what is going to happen? And we were talking to people we've never done business before with, and they went out and they pushed Gators through their supply chain and through their businesses. And I had this guy, Frank from Philadelphia, call me. And it was about 3.5 weeks into working together. And he said, Chris, you literally paid the mortgage this month with Gators. And it's one of the best feelings I've had through this entire experience. So I love when people decide they're not just going to sit there and take it, and they're going to do something about it. One of my biggest heroes in business was a guy named Louis Gerstner. He was the CEO of IBM, and they asked him, well, what do you think about a tough market? And he said, oh, I love tough markets because that's when market share moves. While everybody else is sitting there freaking out about, oh my God, what's going to happen to my business? The people who are nimble, they go and do something about it and they gain market share. So I think the guy, Frank, up in Philly, you know, he decided, I'm not going to sit here and just let this thing happen to me. I'm going to go do something about it. And I think Sublimation has been able to help a lot of people with that mindset, frankly, gain market share and take it away from other people that may or may not make it.
I got you. I'm reading Michael Hyatt's book on vision right now, and he retells all the great stories of basically Kodak just sitting there and taking it and going down with the ship. But on the other hand, Fuji Photo, you know, looked at the market, looked at what they need to do to stay alive, did a little diversification. And, you know, I always tell people, I don't care, you know, they're sublimators, I don't care what you're doing, but you should have 3 businesses on the side. Number one is, I think everybody ought to sell name badges. You know, you think about where those Gators are going, with all those people. They need a quality name badge, you know, and name badges are the only product that you only have to sell once. They just reorder. And then number 2 is the pet market. My favorite, and selling a bandana for your dog. We need to put a bandana on your dog, don't we? You know, and and then the third market.
I think I just love the I mean, I don't know. I just love the diversity of what sublimation can do. I think about those great slate frames that you guys sell, and I've talked to folks over there before. Come holiday time, I'm placing my order at Condé because I got a couple of great photos from our trip out west from the summer, and I want to give it to my mom. And I mean, when I go down to my parents live on the west coast of Florida, I joke with people, my mother, she got 2 rounds of New Jersey accent. She got her share and she got mine. You know, and I tell people she lives in a really bad Seinfeld episode down there, but every time I go to my mom's house, it's the sublimated, customized things that, you know, dominate her living room. It's the thing she cares about.
Well, the third market, which I want to get your opinion on it, give people some advice, and that is the fundraising marketplace. You know, selling into schools, organizations that fundraising is very important. You know, I can imagine you selling a bunch of Gators. It could be through the Spirit store. It could be through the PTA, PTO, all those kinds of things. So we get back to a favorite term of ours, mass customization.
Yes. It's funny. I mean, I'm sure you've heard me do, you know, people say, oh, wow, what's it like to be in the clothing business? And I said, I couldn't tell you. I'm in the mass customization business. I just happen to have a product that you can put on your body, and they call it a shirt. But we didn't start a clothing business. We started a clothing business for mass customization around a core technology called sublimation. And you know, I always think that if you're going to start a business, you should know who you're going to be able to sell your product to. And in a perfect world, you're solving a problem. Customization can solve problems for people.
Gotcha.
It may sound silly, but it does it all the time.
So, so talking about selling prices, share with us a little bit on selling prices for, say, Gators.
Okay. You know, I think that $15 is the low side of a Gator cost structure. I think that your sales process has some impact on that. Of course, artwork does as well. and turn time. But we also work with a lot of brands. These are brands that you might see in West Marine, or these are brands you might see at your local fishing store that has 7 or 8 really cool boutique fishing brands you haven't seen before. And those folks are selling those gators for 25. Some of them are selling them for 30 if the artwork is really specific. We've got this interesting customer called Altered Latitudes that does a lot of nautical chart designs. And, they know exactly who they're selling to. They're selling to that ship store, and they know that that person who's going up the intercoastal waterway wants something from that part of the ICW. And so they're selling them a gator with that nautical chart on it from that ship store at that famous dock or location. And they reorder fast because people want things that are customized, that are part of their experience, and so the more you understand the vertical market, the more you can get paid for these items. If you want to talk about our shirts, a long sleeve UPF 50 shirt with really good artwork on it can go, go out and go to a nice store near the water. You'll see them for as high as $49.95. I saw a wicking shirt, fishing shirt, long sleeve, $65 at a really nice gift shop inside a really nice hotel. And I thought to myself, man, that is just some fantastic margin they've got right there.
And I too see those shirts, and we sought to know the genealogy of those shirts. So very good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So are you going to be doing any teaching so folks could learn more about just tapping into your knowledge?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking that. That's a very kind statement. And two things I would say. I am going to participate. There's just a lot of change going on with the trade shows and stuff, and they're all still trying to figure out what they're going to do. I will be participating in the Sublimation Summit, which I know is going virtual this year, which will be in September. I did that last year when it was in Peachtree City, and I'm being told that, the presentation that we did was, people were upset that there wasn't a couple more options to do it. So we're going to do that a couple of times. And that's, focusing on how to make shirts without any press lines or press marks. I like to call it retail ready apparel sublimation. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about, kind of a follow-up to some of the topics we have here, what's working in the marketplace come September on the backside of what is normally back to school period. I encourage anybody who's on LinkedIn to come find me on there. I've been tending to post little snippets of knowledge there lately and showing really cool examples of sublimation that we're doing inside our production area. Because I like to share when I see a great piece of art, I like to share it with other people so that they can use that idea in their own local market.
Yeah, and speaking of the Sublimation Summit, I'll be teaching there, and Sprite will be teaching. And so I recommend everybody go to Sublimation Summit as they start to shift gears for the virtual program. And I'm very excited because one of the things that I did not get to do at the Sublimation Summit was see other people's presentations. I heard incredibly good things about yours. And of course, Aaron Knight was there with his presses, so that was good. I think Sawgrass Vic Patel was there, Jimmy Lamb, just the who's who of the sublimation world. And that's what really people need. So I think it's early September. I'm trying to remember the dates, but something like that. So head to the sublimationsummit.com and check that out. So Chris, as we sort of run out of time here, and I think we'll have you back again. What's a couple of snippets of the best advice that you can give people for being successful with their sublimation business?
we're talking to a lot of small business owners right now. And so I heard a saying once about 15 years ago, and while I think it's true a lot of the time, it really upsets me when I hear it. And it's small business is small because it doesn't know how to get big. And there's a lot of truth to it, but it kind of makes me mad because I like to root for the underdog. And I think the number one thing I would tell people after 20 years here is go ask for the order. Just go ask for the order, because you can't sell anything. Nobody has anything to do in a business until somebody goes and gets the order. And you know, have you ever been nervous about selling something? You know, remember what it's like to have something be sold to you. Sometimes that person is coming to you and they're actually delivering you a solution. You're like, you know, I'm really happy that that guy got through the secretary to me or whatever, because my business is going to be better as a result of that. So just remember that selling something to somebody is really more than likely solving a problem. You know, I'm not talking about selling people, you know, a wrinkle cream as you're just trying to walk down the street, you know, on your way to dinner and somebody's trying to yank you into a store. I'm talking about putting something in front of people that solves a problem. And right now, sublimation is the preferred technology for some really good things that help bend the curve on this disease, regardless, virus, whatever you want to call what we're dealing with. It's going to be top of mind for a while. You might as well have a good solution to it. The other thing I would say, other than don't be afraid to go out there and sell, is artwork. You got to have good artwork if you're going to sell stuff, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. A really nice sample is worth 100,000 words.
It's very true. And for those that are not artwork inclined, there's a lot of talented artists around us. And all you got to do is tap into that, and they'll produce amazing artwork. I took a mass to church a couple of weeks ago, and just having fun with it, and had a good friend of mine walk up. He says, "Yep, I've got to expedite my wedding because of a family circumstance with one of the parents." And he said, "Can you make me masks?" And I said, "Well, of course I can make them." So I made the masks, delivered them. Actually, my wife pressed them. And I made beautiful bride and groom masks and made some huggers, because every wedding needs huggers nowadays. And, you know, seeing everybody in the church being distanced, you know, and trying to be healthy, it certainly, it didn't take away from the wedding. It really added a, I don't know what the right word is when everybody has the same mask on, so to speak, but camaraderie, you name it, fellowship is probably a good word. And those opportunities are out there because people are going to figure out a way to get married. They're going to figure out a way to do things. And you're right, if you never go ask for the business, it more than likely it's not going to hit you upside the head.
Well, when I was in the Army, we all wore the same color uniform. So there's something to it.
Well, Chris, thank you for being with us. And let me switch back to this. And I know I wasn't answering questions. I know we had a lot of questions, and I apologize for that. But Chris, we'll have you back again. I want to thank everybody for being part of this. And Chris, till we talk again, thank you.
Nice to see you, David. Take care.